We acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders, past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's spirit, imagination and rich history of storytelling and humour that is an inspiration for all Australians.
Hello, welcome to another episode of The Bearer of Weird News. As always, I am your host and the suppository of all wisdom, Matt Harvey. Now, guys, I'm literally about to fly to Edinburgh tonight. This is the last thing I do before I take off tonight for the Edinburgh Fringe. So by the time you're hearing this, I will already be there because that is the way that time works. But I will be getting this up as quickly as I can for you guys. So I hope you enjoy this. This will be the only episode that I put up this month. I do apologise. I know I've been trying to be a little better at putting these things up quicker, but this is the position that I find myself in. I have to leave the country and I won't have time to put anything together while I'm away. So we're going to get into it quick. We'll smash it out real fast. And to begin with, we need to thank our major sponsors. And this episode is brought to you by International Moon Day. Thank you, International Moon Day, marking the anniversary of the first moon landing by humans on the moon, or, depending on what side of the internet you frequent, the anniversary of the time that the US government engaged in a massive lie to trick the Russian government into thinking they went to the moon first, because as a species we're just really bored. And the world isn't very magical, or at least not as magical as we'd hoped it would be when we were children. But, guys, if you're like me, and no doubt you are, all premium level subscribers to Red String and Corkboard magazine, well, you'll know, like I do, that it is no coincidence that the exact day that we celebrate International Moon Day is also the exact day that we celebrate our second sponsor, World Chess Day, or as we, the intellectual elite, know it really is, World 5D Chess Day. That's right! As we celebrate the deceptions that have been put in place by the global elite to stop us, the proletariat, from uncovering their nefarious and seemingly expensive cover-ups. And I don't know who makes these international days. I'm not an international dayologist. But the creator of World Chess Day is really the Michael Jordan of 5D chess. When he was playing basketball, not in his baseball years, obviously. So to help celebrate World Chess Day and to maybe elevate this day, bring it into a new level of celebration, I have a proposition for the creator of World Chess Day. I would like you, the audience, to put your biggest suspicions into the internet. You know, start a little breadcrumb trail that will lead others to uncover the truth that you already know. We can change World Chess Day into World 5D Chess Day, the day where we spend the day airing our wildest conspiracy theories without shame, without prejudice. It'd be like The Purge, but, you know, for QAnon theories. If you see someone has posted their conspiracy theory on World 5D Chess Day, you can safely ignore it. It's sort of like anything that gets announced on April Fool's Day. We don't believe any of that. So just, you save it all up for World Chess Day, bush, or 5D Chess Day, sorry, bush, you let it out, you put it all out into the world, whoo, you calm down. You know, I think it's the mental health outlet that the world needs right now. So I'd just like to thank World Chess Day for sponsoring this episode, and I hope you take on my suggestion of World 5D Chess Day for next year. And of course, I could possibly be doing all of this without my live shows, right? So first, big thanks to everyone who came out to the shows in Darwin. That was genuinely a lot of fun, and the audiences were, I think, in a particularly Darwin mood. So thanks for coming out. You made it a lot of fun and very loud and energetic. But I do have some shows coming up in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. As I mentioned, I'm leaving tonight. I have two shows. I'm doing both of the shows that I'm currently touring from the 31st to the 24th of August. It's a massive festival, 48 shows for the whole thing. And that's without any of the extra promotional shows. So I might be a little bit tired when I get back. But until then, guys, I will be the bearer of weird news. So let's start with the headlines. A hosepipe ban affecting more than 5 million people came into effect last week and is the first to be declared in the UK this year. It prohibits the use of hosepipes for activities such as watering the garden, washing the car, filling a paddling pool, and most devastatingly, creating a backyard bong. Norman Tebbit, who served as a cabinet minister in Margaret Thatcher's government, has died peacefully at home, aged 94. Unlike the 2,500 excess deaths per year that resulted of the unemployment caused by Margaret Thatcher's policies. The family has asked that their privacy is respected at this time, but frankly, if we were to all agree to that, then we'd have formed some kind of union where we all worked together towards a collective agreement, and that would actually disrespect the legacy that both he and Thatcher left behind in the world. So I think as individuals, it is our duty to disrupt them and put them out as much as possible. A rare, stretchy toy of the Hulk could fetch up to £5,000 when it is auctioned later this month. The figure is one of only 30 examples that is known to still exist. This is actually the most valuable the Hulk has been since Mark Ruffalo took a significant pay cut to play Bruce Banner. Its value comes not from the rarity of the toy, but because it reminds us of a simpler time. A time when there wasn't a Marvel product coming out every 3 months or so, and one of their toys could actually be rare. A new security system means that passengers at Edinburgh Airport can actually take liquid containers of up to 2 litres through security, and large electrical items can stay in their bags. They will, however, have to strip completely naked and submit to a full body cavity search in order to pass security, but hey, at least they won't have to unpack their whole bag just to get a laptop out anymore. Donald Trump has said that he thinks talks to end the war in Gaza have been going along very well, despite no breakthrough in the latest round of indirect negotiations. And I know what you're thinking. How could it be going well if they've made no breakthrough? But you need to remember, with Trump, any interaction that doesn't end with him making things worse through sheer hubris is actually a successful interaction. Trump also hosted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington, D.C., who has actually nominated Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. Now, Trump being nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize might seem odd, but remember, and this is 100% true, the Nobel Peace Prize, or the Nobel Prize, was created by dynamite inventor and notorious war profiteer Alfred Nobel, so that he could launder his public reputation with his blood money. So by that measure, we are actually right on track with this nomination. We are living up to the very fundamental ideals that allowed the Nobel Peace Prize to come into existence in the first place. Aberdeen University has extended its voluntary severance scheme, or as it is also known, enhanced retirement, as it continues to search for millions of pounds in financial savings. Professors also have been offered the opportunity to join their voluntary not having enough money for food scheme, their voluntary struggling to pay your mortgage scheme, or the increasingly popular voluntary poverty scheme. But we've yet to see any uptake on those. The national system for sending emergency text alerts to phones in the UK will be tested again in September. The alerts are intended for situations in which an imminent danger to life, such as extreme weather events, or during a terror attack, or if Liz Truss decides that she will run for office again. The previous national test in 2023 saw some users receiving multiple alerts, while many of the 3 network did not get anything at all. But the network was already working to address the issue by rolling out its new Emergency Notifications Plus upgrade for only £20 a month. The Esports World Cup has started in Saudi Arabia, a location that has angered some gaming fans, as Saudi women have fewer rights than men, and being gay is still illegal. While others have acknowledged that the move to overlook behaviour unacceptable anywhere else in order to make money has given them the credentials that are actually needed for the esports league to actually be considered a proper sports organisation. So it's all swings and roundabouts, really. Russia's investigative committee says former Russian Transport Minister Roman Starovit has been found dead, apparently with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Which is strange because he apparently also self-inflicted some poison, self-inflicted some stabbing, self-inflicted some hanging, and for good measure, self-inflicted throwing himself out of a window. A broken down Eurostar train has been evacuated in northern France, causing a more than 9-hour delay to what was scheduled to be a 2-hour journey. Metro train customers were overheard saying, "Oh, only a 9-hour delay for a 2-hour trip? Shit, how much do I have to pay for a ticket that good?" The River Seine in Paris has reopened publicly to swimmers for the first time since 1923, after a century-long ban. City officials said the Seine would be assessed daily for the presence of fecal bacteria E. coli, and flags will inform bathers every day about the pollution levels. Swimmers looking to take advantage of the newly opened river have been warned for their own safety that they will need to swim between the brown flags. 3 lynx that survived being dumped in the Scottish Highlands earlier this year have been taken to a new home at the Highland Wild Park, and they've even been given new names. They now go by the names Africa, Ice Chill, and Long Lasting Antiperspirant. Mattel has launched the first Barbie doll with type 1 diabetes as part of a drive to increase representation. They said it was not only important to represent different people, but to do it right. So Diabetes Barbie comes with a unique slow healing sores, is constantly leaking from her increased need to urinate, and won't stand up straight due to fatigue. The other diseases that they're also considering showing are genital herpes Barbie, because let's face it, we all know that you're undressing your Barbie dolls. Highly superior autobiographical memory Barbie, who can remember every moment of every day and won't forget that thing that you did to them that one time just to see how it felt. And of course, foreign accent syndrome Barbie, aka the Barbie who just got back from her first ever trip overseas and managed to pick up an accent despite only being there for 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks' time will be known as cancelled Barbie. The world's oldest boomerang is older than previously thought, casting new light on the ingenuity of humans living at the time. Researchers worked out from the shape that it would have flown when thrown, but it would not have come back to the thrower, making it less a boomerang and more of a poorly shaped spear, or maybe just the world's oldest and deadliest paper airplane. YouTube is advocating for the UK government to formally recognise content creator as a real job. And I'd just like to say, on a personal note, content creators, get in line behind comedians, poets, artists, and mimes. The government barely recognises minimum wage workers as having a real job, and they have to put up with the bullshit YouTubers do to them. So you can just back the fuck up a little bit, right? Turns out that taxpayers forked out almost $500 million to shield metro trains from the pandemic fallout. And it is with this in mind that I would like to formally announce that I will not be touching on for my next few 100,000 trips, and I actively encourage all of my listeners to do the same. We've already paid for it, guys. I think it's time they acknowledge that they owe us a little bit. Well, that's the end of the headlines. Let's move on to some of the biggest stories. Starting with alternative solution news. Almost a third of citizens from Tuvalu, a Pacific nation under threat from rising seas and the home of the .tv web domain made famous by Twitch, have entered a ballot that awards visas to 280 citizens per year in what is considered a world first deal. And I just want to put this out there to any of the Tuvaluans who win this prize. Watch out, guys, it's a trap, alright? Just be as careful as you can. Look, you might have been too busy trying to repel the waters that have been rising on your doorstep at roughly 3% per year. But Australia, I don't know how to put this delicately, has a bit of a history of people who have attempted to enter the country from a watery location, and we did not treat them well. We even built a special batch of public housing that you can stay in for a little while, assuming the waters haven't risen to the point of being, I don't know, half full, or if you're a government official looking to get rid of refugees, half empty. So the benefits, they do start straight away if you do pick up your visa. Lucky you. I mean, at least the High Court has determined that the indefinite immigration detention is now unlawful. A decision that, at the time, took the government by surprise as we solve most of our country's problems with indefinite detention. I mean, we give out more detention than a teacher in an 80s teen comedy. Oh! Refugees fleeing a land that we are bombing? Woohoo! You better believe you got detention, mister. Pesky children looking for a new home? Oh! Straight to detention for you, young man. World famous athletes? We will give you citizenship, but that's after you do some detention. How many more people do I have to send to detention today, just to get my point across? Critics are chiefly concerned that the government has refused to outlaw new coal, oil and gas projects. Remember, Australia is one of the world's biggest fossil fuel exporters. And if you ask the government, that is not enough. Oh, no, sir. We certainly need to be number one, baby! Number one exporter, alright? So we're going to work harder, work faster, and try and get more and more coal out into the environment, no matter what the consequences are. We gotta build more coal mines, and we are on our way. Like, we are on our way with the Labor government approving, so many more coal mines than none. So many more than none. I would have thought that none would have been the number that they are going for, but they've approved so many more than none. Higher, further, hotter, wetter, baby! That is Australia's new motto. I think it might become our new national anthem, if I'm honest with you. Despite the IPCC saying new fossil fuel projects are not compatible with the aims or attempts to stop drowning countries like, just off the top of my head, the Paris Agreement, even going so far as saying existing infrastructure must be urgently phased out. So don't bother building any new ones, and maybe consider getting rid of the ones that you already have. And yet we still persist on building more because we're good like that. You know, it's like commendable. They'll make a t-shirt that says, and yet they persisted. It'll just have like smoke billowing off the letters from the fossil fuels being burned. We are the musicians playing as the Titanic sinks. If their playing of the music was actually the one thing that was actively causing the boats to sink, and everyone was desperately trying to get them to stop playing their instruments no matter what, but they sort of saw it as their duty to never stop playing despite the consequences. The visa program has been hailed as a landmark response to the looming challenge of climate-forced migration. For, among other reasons, for the first time ever, there is a country that has committed legally to come to the aid of Tuvalu upon request when Tuvalu encounters a health pandemic, military aggression, or a major natural disaster. Unless, of course, that major natural disaster is tied directly to the cause and effect Rube Goldberg machine of climate change that we started rolling so that we could film it and get a bunch of likes on TikTok. But hey, we do what we can, because we're good people like that. And at only 280 citizens each year, this must be great for them. Alright, tell you what, let's figure it out. Let's do a little maths here. So we're aiming to bring, what is it? To bring down our emissions for a 2050 net zero. Okay, 2050 net zero. So what's the population of Tuvalu? Is anyone? What's the All right, yeah. So 11,204. Okay, it's not a huge amount. Okay, it's not like a ton of people. So I think this is workable. These numbers might work in our favor. Alrighty, so let's do it. So 11,204, right, divided by 280 people a year. So that'll take. Let me just do the maths here. That'll take simply 40.1 years to get the whole of the population of Tuvalu to Australia, and that's assuming that they do not have a single new baby in the next 40 years. So a very reasonable timeline and a very reasonable expectation, okay? No more babies unless you've got your visa to come to Australia, in which case you can get to fucking. Because then they're new Australian citizens, okay? We need more people or something like that. I believe that's the one of the latest talking points. And how long did we say that we had? We have the timeline, or 2050? That's right. 2050 is the timeline. So that's from now. It's 28 years. Okay, it's 28 years. So 280 people a year times by 28 years. Well, it's not the whole population. That's what 7,840 people. That's pretty good. 7,800. We've only left 3,364 people to drown, and they might not necessarily need to drown. It's really just covered when it's on high tide. So at some point, they'll just have to climb up a palm tree for a significant portion of the day, and then come back down until we're ready to grant them visas. Simple. What's the problem? I don't see. Sorry, but people do enjoy the benefits of seafront property. It's highly valuable, and all we're doing is helping you get more seafront property. Okay? Your increasingly sea-submerged community will thank us in the end when you're able to sell all of your properties for much higher than it ever was before to some new and upcoming mermaid family who is interested in a landfront property. Okay? Now I understand why we're investing so much money into submarines. It's going to be the only way that we're going to be able to save the Tuvaluan people, the 3,364 Tuvaluan people that we've left behind. So I'd just like to say welcome to the newest Australians, the former entire population of Tuvalu, who doesn't choose to die on their island home like the band playing on the Titanic as it sinks. Though Tuvaluans, now Australian Tuvaluans, should be careful. There is a few little picadillos of life here in Australia that you might not be familiar with. Starting simply, probably the most obvious one, Vegemite. Alright, Vegemite, yes, it was inevitable that it was going to come up. You are an Australian now, so you will be obliged to eat it. You might not enjoy it, but you'll be obliged to eat it. You'll be obliged to teach other countries how to spread it properly, which is a thin spread, mostly on toast, with cheese. That's usually the best way to eat it. And you will find yourself weirdly defensive and uncharacteristically patriotic when someone talks shit about it. That's just a condition of your new country's citizenship. Sorry. Now, I know that you're used to a whole bunch of different wildlife. One might say friendlier wildlife, but you live in Australia now, and that's about to end. Most of you will have an encounter with a magpie, a bird called a magpie, or as they are known locally, sky cunts. Yes, swooping sky cunts if you're fancy. Now, magpies best represent the spirit of modern Australia as they move into a location and then they needlessly, aggressively defend it against anyone who might have already been living there. And you better hope that they don't see something shiny that they like, as they will be coming for it. They will then claim your shiny thing as their own without remorse. It is the Australian way, and they are the most Australian bird. And it is in this spirit of the magpie you need to embrace yourself as a new Australian citizen, okay? You need to take on these characteristics and embrace the magpie way of life. As such, the Federal Court recently found that the Commonwealth does not owe a duty of care to Torres Strait Islander peoples to protect them from the impacts of climate change or to fund adaptation measures, okay? And as a new Australian citizen, it is your job to integrate, which means holding up the community-held belief that coal and gas are our future, and that they certainly aren't causing the kind of problems that required you to flee your homeland and live in regional towns in a desert country, okay? It's just facts. That's just how things are believed here, and we need you to embrace that lifestyle and that magpie lifestyle, taking the shiny thing without the consequences. Even if the judge also rejected Torres Strait Islanders' claim that their cultural loss should be compensated under negligence law, despite also saying that the Torres Strait Islanders people's case did not fail because there was no merit in their allegations. Oh, there was merit, but rather because negligence law does not allow compensation for matters of government policy. So, you know, don't think of forming some sort of coalition of the oppressed and marching your considerable power to the very steps of Parliament and demanding that they take responsibility for the selfless actions that they themselves have insisted upon, while simultaneously telling off the opposition party for dragging their feet on climate change. After all, they might deport you, send you back to the island that is no longer there because we sank it under the sea with climate change. Moving on now, it is age news, and we are looking down the barrel of some pretty strict age verification changes in Australia. Experts have even warned that the move could compromise Australians' privacy online and may not do much to protect young people regardless. Haha, how good! Lisa Given, the Professor of Information Sciences from RMIT, who specialises in age assurance technology, said, "I have not seen anything like this anywhere else in the world. The search results for logged in users under the age of 18 will be filtered for pornography, high impact violence, material promoting eating disorders, and a range of other content." And they definitely won't just be logged into their dad's Google account, which is definitely going to be approved for porn already, so surely this is the best solution, inconveniencing everybody on the off chance that this might help, which it won't, which is proven that it won't, especially considering the numbers of people 65 and over are projected to overtake those 20 and under in 2048. So by the time we hit 2048, there's barely going to be anyone left underage for these age verifications to stop from accessing the porn that we don't want them to access. So now the government expects us to believe that a company that has built its reputation on knowing everything, that has so much information that it knows when you're on your period and adjusts your advertising accordingly, suddenly doesn't know anything about how old you are? Weird. Like, that's a weird assumption to make. Surely the onus is on the company to ensure that there are measures in place. That just feels like that should be the way to go. It's the way we do it with everything else. I mean, if there is one industry that can definitely be trusted with the increasing amounts of our personal data that we're giving them seemingly willingly, it's definitely these tech companies. It's not like billions of login credentials have been leaked and compiled into databases online, including for platforms such as Facebook, Google, and Apple, just recently, actually, as much as like maybe a week ago.
16 billion login credentials have been leaked online, giving criminals unprecedented access to social media accounts.
16 billion? 16 billion logins? That's more than twice the population of the Earth. So if you think that that secret email address that you made is unaffected, think again, champ. sexyunicorn69@gmail.com. You've been exposed. You've been hacked, buddy. Unless, I mean, that's the kind of thing that you're into. I wasn't bold enough to read the emails myself beyond the first couple of saucy lines. It got way too saucy for me. So, good luck, I say. Good luck to you in all your saucy endeavours.
Cyber experts are stressing the importance of maintaining cyber hygiene and reminding people to change their passwords.
Oh, come on! Change my password. I can barely remember the passwords that I have. Why is the onus always on me to change my passwords to stop them from being stolen? They get stolen all the time. Don't think that by calling it cyber hygiene, you can trick me into cleaning it every day. That's not how that's gonna work, alright? I'll start taking responsibility for my shitty passwords and lack of cyber hygiene when Google starts acting responsibly and cleaning up some of their own stinky habits. I mean, they just ended their fact-checking funding contract with the Australian Associated Press amid a US-led political backlash against fact-checking. I mean, come on. How am I the bad guy in this scenario because I use a shit password? And to be honest, this just feels like a time and cost-saving measure for Google and maybe for the AAP as well, because at this point, I think it's fair to assume we just know that everything the Trump administration says is a blatant lie. We just now don't have the nuance of what exact type of lie that it is. But just be assured, it's the same caliber of bullshit. We just don't have like a bullshit sommelier to refine it for us. But I can tell you that it has aged, well, like a pile of shit, really. So a Google spokesperson said that it was that its support for the AAP fact check had always been project-based. But of course, there's nobody left to verify this fact, so we just have to assume that they're doing this because they have something to hide and are lying to us. Which is weird because Google is a really trustworthy company who has never tried to use their near monopoly-like power to continue hiding things from us. You know, like as a random example, nothing you need to worry about. For example, Google, say, collecting and using our location data, creating user notifications about changes to their privacy policy that actively confuse people, or, for example, actively shifting $23 billion to tax havens in Bermuda in 2017, or actively avoiding paying taxes since at least 2008. So maybe the reason that they have tried to distract us with all this password information and they've had to shut down some of their fact-finding mission is because they weren't able to find enough facts to find out how much they owe in taxes. Doesn't bode well for the upcoming introduction of the unprecedented mandatory age checks for search engines like Google in Australia, does it? I mean, if you can't hold on to your own information and refuse to provide accurate fact information, I don't know how anybody's going to be able to sign into Google beyond December 27th when all of this comes into place, which if you haven't heard, that's when it's going to start up. Google and Microsoft will have to use some form of age assurance technology on users when they sign in. So Merry Christmas, Australia! The government, they got you a gift. And it seems that they went off the Christmas list that you so helpfully provided so that they wouldn't waste their money getting you a gift that you didn't want or need. I mean, it was a pretty good list. What did we ask for? Improvements to welfare, elimination of poverty, and maybe the eradication of climate change. They feel like very simple gifts that you probably should have stuck to the list. But they've gone and spent a lot of money on it. So do try and put a smile and politely and act like you aren't extremely disappointed with this gift that you've been given. Because it is a gift. The gift of age verification. Now these age checks are basically the same controversial age assurance technology behind the teen social media ban. The one that would totally only be applied to teenagers and definitely wouldn't impact the rest of us. We were absolutely reassured. Well, they inevitably would, I guess, because how do you verify that somebody's not a child without having to verify that they are, in fact, an adult, right? It's not fucking possible. The code does not spell out the measures to be used to assure someone's age, but I doubt that it'll be the old click box to confirm that you're over 18 method. We've become accustomed to that, right? By now, we know how to get around that. Also, I'm told, I certainly wouldn't know about such things. These methods could include things like asking for government-issued ID, or be similar to strategies currently being assessed for the Australian government's under 16 social media ban, such as facial recognition technology. So good thing those facial recognition trials worked perfectly. Do we have a clip?
1 minute I'm getting 15, the next I'm getting 19,
Okay.
so like...
Oh, it gave me 29, that same one. Right, just
Really?
looking at it. And I've been told my whole life I look like about 4 years younger than what I actually am.
I'm getting, 23, upwards of 23.
On all the tests?
A majority, yeah.
19, 37, 26, and I think it was 23 as well.
Okay, wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty inconsistent.
13.
13. Went from 15 to 40 to 13. Getting younger by the minute.
Oh, whoops! Well, whoopsie. Seems like this will be the golden age for VPNs, as they will be used to trick the system into believing that users are outside of Australia, effectively showing that Australia doesn't exist anymore, which plays right into the hands of the flat earthers. Because if nobody's logging in to the internet from Australia, then effectively Australia doesn't exist. Wow. Wow, this has all come around and we just played right into the hands of Big Flat Earth. Fuck you, government. Fuck you. And if you thought the inundation of VPN ads on YouTube videos were irritating before, prepare for an avalanche of VPN recommendations, my friends. And I plan on getting out ahead of this, so you can use my code, cashing in on fear-mongering, all one word, all caps, to get a discount code and support this channel with Quick Cash Grab VPN. The only and best VPN for stopping the government from stopping you from jerking it to some porn. Alternatively, we will see an uptick in sales of fake mustaches, and theatre kids will suddenly become very popular as they will have easy and quick access to spirit gum to make the mustaches stay stuck down on the faces of these fresh-faced youths. Or for those who don't wish to support the channel, children can simply access content on older people's Google accounts or Microsoft Bing accounts. I don't want to oversell one search engine. You use whichever search engine you feel is best, okay? We don't even know how the code will affect features like incognito mode, which is used for, we'll call it private searching, so I'm told. I wouldn't know myself. Companies could use inference measures such as account history or device usage patterns to estimate a user's age, which would mean that most users may not have to go through an age assurance process, which would be helpful. Which would be great for the teenager who already has a crippling porn addiction, but not so great for the millennial or Gen Z adult who has yet to grow out of their childish online habits like being too broke to afford a house, forcing them to constantly search for rentals, and not having children of their own due to the diminishing buying power of the dollar earned by workers compared to the rising prices of food and the constant Googling of the phrase, cheap food near me, which would be all clear signs of someone who hasn't quite grown up yet. The industry code of practice defines the age of a child as being under 18, which means that come December, children in Australia will be able to join the army before they can access porn. Under the new code, a search engine must apply tools and settings that, at a minimum, filter out online porn and extremely violent material from search results. Providers must also ensure advertising in these content areas is not served up in search results to child account holders. If we're worried about what children can access, corrupting them in such a way that these children will get hurt in the future, well, I will note that Sky News has done more harm to the mental health of not only children who have to live in the world shaped by Sky News' wretched opinion-slinging, culture warmongering shit shows, but their parents and grandparents have been gently human centipeding the opinions of Murdoch journalists through the generations directly into the mouths of their children for much too long now, sort of like a generational trauma human centipede. Like the worst version of baby birding that I can think of. Maybe to save the mental health of children, we will have to ban the country from Murdoch journalism. Or, like, at the very least, age restrict the most horrific news to ever have been created in the history of the globe. If we do what New Zealand did, or what they tried to do with cigarettes, which is ban anyone born in 2008 or under from accessing Sky News and the Murdoch empire, we can eventually be rid of the mental health crisis that remains in its wake. As eventually the population will sort of grow to an age where nobody will need to access that anymore, and the corrupting influence of the Murdoch empire will dissipate into the annals of history. Though I will make one potentially positive note. Companies that don't comply with the codes will actually face a fine similar to that of the social media ban of up to $49.5 million for a breach. And other measures such as e-safety requesting sites be delisted from search results are also an option for non-compliance. And that's a very exciting possibility and might be the solution to a long-term problem that we've had with a lot of these large tech companies, effectively them not paying the tax that they owe. Because we need to get that money. We need to get them to pay the tax that they refuse to pay. So I guess we'll get it from them just by aggressively fining them for the inevitable breaches of the code they will not be able to stop no matter how hard they try. Which, I don't know, feels like a weird trade-off, but it might be worth it in the long run. At the very least, we can give it a go for a couple of years and see how it pans out. And finally, it is Gaza news. And in a surprise move, Australia, a country who, just between us, has quietly been actively making a little bit of money off the war in Gaza. So much that we were actually referred to the International Criminal Court for investigation into whether we have aided or supported Israel's actions in Gaza. How embarrassing for us. So it's fair to say that it was a surprise when, against all odds and an increasingly dying hope that our leaders knew how to be good and decent humans, the Australian government called for an end to the war in Gaza. Yeah, you heard that right. Australia has joined the UK, France, and 25 other countries who went on to urge other members of the international community to bring an immediate end to the war in Gaza. And look, the UK and Australia calling for an end to the war in Gaza, I mean, these guys are supplying weapons to the antagonist. I mean, this is just like Philip Morris calling for a smoke-free world while secretly increasing sales of cigarettes in developing nations. Something that you might need to look up, but they actually genuinely did. And it makes you wonder what we're actually up to. Like, what is it that we're doing in the background that that is so bad that us turning against Israel won't look so bad by comparison? Or, like, we're just using it as a smokescreen to cover up something really bad. Look, I'm just saying that it just feels like something is off for us to suddenly turn on a heel and be like, nah, this is enough. Like, we've made enough money from the war? Like, did we have one of those big cartoon thermometers and we've coloured it in enough? And we're like, okay, now we can call for the end of genocide. I'm like, what happened? I don't have an answer. I'm just speculating. But look, I'm just saying, we're one of the top 20 arms exporters in the world from the year 2019 to 2023. I'd say our days of making money from the death of innocent people are far from done, you know what I mean? We might just come up with a version of a weapon that we claim is genocide-free until experts put it to the test and decide that it actually isn't genocide-free and still linked to genocides. We just largely ignore them because we don't like being told what to do by experts. So this statement, it criticizes what it calls the inhumane killing of Palestinians and condemns the drip-feeding of aid, voicing sharp condemnation of the Israeli government's aid delivery model and for Israel to lift aid restrictions. Because we all agreed that there are definitely acceptable ways to kill people in a war, and starving people isn't one of them. We don't starve innocent people, okay? That's not us. We're not monsters. We take innocent people and send them off to offshore island prisons. That is what a civilized country does. That is how a civilized country handles people that you don't perceive as belonging in your country. Okay? We were okay when Palestine was essentially a prison, because that's the way we do things. So go back to turning Palestine into ostensibly a prison, and we might be able to negotiate a little bit more. But none of this starving. That is unacceptable behaviour. Greens leader Larissa Waters told reporters she did not believe the joint statement went far enough, and instead pushed for the federal government to consider putting sanctions on the Netanyahu government. And then the government leapt into immediate action, laying down harsh sanctions.
The Senate is currently debating a motion to discipline a Greens senator over her behaviour during the opening of Parliament yesterday.
Oh, well, it must have been bad. Let's have a little look at what she did to deserve that.
I'm quite happy to remove this because this is not what should belong in this Parliament.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's embarrassing. That's the wrong footage. That's actually the footage of Pauline Hanson being a racist piece of shit in Parliament, for which she faced zero punishment. I can only apologise to Senator Faruqi for mixing up those two pieces of footage. In no way did I mean to compare you with Senator Hanson. My bad. Can we get the actual... Yeah, can we get the actual footage? Yeah, cool. So what did... Thank you. What did Senator Faruqi do? I mean, it must have been worse than Pauline Hanson's behaviour in order for her to be sanctioned. So let's have a look.
During the opening ceremony of the Senate on the first full day of Parliament, holding up this sign during the Governor-General's address, which said, "Gaza is starving, words won't feed them, sanction Israel."
So, well, based on that, terrible behaviour, of course, the government leapt into action and immediately sanctioned Marine Faruqi for her Gaza sign protest. I mean, the only reasonable response at this time, seriously, what did she think was going to happen? I mean, you can't go around quietly holding up a sign in Parliament. We all know that Parliament is for loud yelling and spectacles, right? That's quietly holding up a sign? Whoa, calm down, man, calm down. And I get that we are used to politicians doing the absolute bare minimum, but like, we've been calling for Labor to do something for the longest time about this war in Gaza, and Labor finally demonstrated that they're actually willing to enact sanctions regarding Israel, and then they go and do it to a Greens senator instead of someone who is actually related to the genocide. And more insultingly, she then got accused of street theatre. I mean, it's not like she was out there gathering a crowd around, compelling them to put money in a bucket. Granted, she was kind of doing a mime, which in polite and civilized society is completely unacceptable, okay? So, like, in that sense, I'd be angry too. But I think it's pretty rich for Michaelia Cash to condemn Senator Faruqi for political theatre. I mean, she's part of the party that performs more theatre than a first-year uni student in an arts degree. Although I will remind you, all the preferred method of attention-seeking in Parliament is actually prop comedy.
This is coal. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared.
The Treasurer knows the rule on props.
And at this point, the Greens are actually considering taking up arms contracts with the government so they can get legitimate attention from them and avoid further sanctions. Speaking of responses to the statement, in a classically out-of-touch move, Dan Tehan has challenged the government's assertion that Israel is breaching international law. And Dan, my man, champ, I need to know, what is the point of this challenge? What are you doing? Who are you trying to impress by doing this? Like, at this point, even his idol and the model for the 2025 coalition election, Donald Trump, agrees that there is starvation happening in Gaza. Now, I will grant you that he said it in one of the weirdest possible ways that he could by saying, we're going to be getting some good, strong food that we can save lots of people. I mean, some of those kids, that's real starvation stuff. We have to help on a humanitarian basis. Before we do anything, we have to get the kids fed. And I agree, we do need to get the kids fed. That would be a great thing to do. Especially, like, Dan, you realize that this is the guy who has actively cut aid programs across the globe, leading to as many as 95 million people losing access to basic healthcare and potentially leading to more than 3 million preventable deaths per year. Why are you presenting as a worse person than that? But I guess these things are only bad if someone else is causing people's deaths, right? So Tehan said Hamas is to blame for the situation in Gaza, and that it's the terror group that's weaponizing aid, not Israel. With the coalition now demanding that Albo produce the facts, making this maybe the first time in the history of the entire coalition that they have ever cared about somebody presenting some facts. And I have to ask, again, what is the end game here? Like, what are you up to? What are you trying to achieve by doing this? I know that you're the opposition, but you don't have to be in opposition to helping starving children. Best case scenario, if everything else goes well, this is all so they can wake up on the wrong side of history as early as possible. Generally speaking, trying to disprove that a clear genocide in violation of human rights is in fact happening, and is in fact a clear genocide in violation of human rights internationally, does not bode well in the historical retrospectives. It does make you look like you're aiding in the genocide, which is in clear violation of international human rights, but hey, you didn't hear that from me. Now, before we judge, remember, it's only genocidal starvation if it comes from the Revolution region of France. Otherwise, we don't call it that. Otherwise, it is simply known as sparkling war crimes. And that's the end, guys. We've come to the end of another episode of The Bearer of Weird News. I do hope you've enjoyed that one. If you did, do feel free to share it around, send it to some friends, and get anyone who you think might enjoy it to come and check it out. I unfortunately don't have time to do a bonus episode for you here today, because I do, as I mentioned at the top, have to literally take off to Edinburgh tonight. So I will make it up to the Patreon members at some point, I'm sure. But if you feel like you'd like extra of this, more of this sort of thing, I do have a Patreon. It does generally have bonus stories for every episode. So if you want to check that out, go to patreon.com/MattHarveyStuff and check out the tier levels. Anything you can do to support us is extremely helpful. Otherwise, just come out to one of the live shows if you ever get the opportunity. I would love to see you there. Don't be afraid to come and say hello afterwards. Bye-bye.